Alright, if you're coming from the other video where we did the pre-setup and setup, then congratulations on making it this far. Uh, we've only got another 20 minutes of explanations to go, roughly. If not, then you may want to check that out after this if you're interested in how to set up the game. Or the more in-depth nature of setting up the game. Alright, cool. So, just as a brief recap, we are in multi-hand mode. And so when we click these clean buttons here, it will move us to the next seat. If you are playing Golden Solo rule set and you have made it to this point, this is when you would now come over here and tick down this to 0 and click the multi-hand mode button, and it would prevent you from hopping to the next seat. Excuse me there. Alright, cool. Now, let's see, what do I want to cover first? Let's just play this out kind of like I'm playing the game here. I'm white player. We just started up. I'll just make sure these are shuffled, although they should be shuffled just from the scripting itself. So in your play area here, you have these clean buttons, which in multiplayer are not used. They will be disabled. So in multiplayer, you'll just click in turn, and it does everything that this cleanup button does. And then you have this counter here. This is the number of cards that you're going to draw when you end your turn or click this cleanup button. Then the spawn playmat button here will grab you a playmat out of these bags, and it'll spawn it here, and you can click it to kind of cycle through them. There's a bunch of different playmats in there. If you have images for some, I will gladly add them. You know, as long as they're not too crazy. Like the lewdness level, this is probably like the maximum lewdness level that I'll get to in the mod, right? Like this is kind of lewd, but not really, you know what I mean? So yeah, just if you're gonna send pics, keep them about that area, or you know, more friendly, whatever. You understand what I'm saying? No TNA, okay? No TNA. So yeah, that covers that. The first thing you're gonna want to do on your turn is play a villain deck card. Here we have one of the Scarlet Witches, so we'll have to see what these do. Alright, it's just a villain with attack equal to its cost +3. So, cool. Oops, my bad. So now we'll just play out our hand. Over here on the right hand side, we have a little cheat sheet. You can see this only if you have notes enabled. So to make sure that you have this cheat sheet, you can come into options. I opened that menu by hitting escape, by the way. Hit escape, configuration, and then if you go to interface, if this note buttons is unticked like this, then you will not be able to see this stuff over here. So you want to make sure that is ticked. Also, while we're here, in miscellaneous settings, in the newest update to Tabletop, they added a feature where the cards will duck down in your hand if you're not hovered over it. To prevent that from happening, you take this hand minimize size here and slide it all the way up to 1. But you can configure that however you want to. This just toggles on whether you can see your hand or not, and you can do that by default with the H key, as in Homer Simpson. So boop, boop, that toggles that. So first up, numpad 1 is going to play, or is going to discard a card at random, my bad. I have custom keybinds. So as you can see, these keybinds can be re-keybound also if we go to configuration. I don't know why it brought up that thing. And then go to controls. If you scroll all the way down until you see these scripting buttons here, these are what these are keybound to their respective numbers. So numpad 1 is set to scripting 1 by default. Now I have it changed to keypad 5 because that's what my mouse buttons use, is the numpad numbers. So yeah, you can change these and customize these as you want. So numpad 1 is going to discard a card at random. So you click that, it just randomly discards one. Numpad 2 will draw a card. Oops, wrong button. I always get those mixed up. You'll actually see, if you ever play any games with me, you'll actually see me do that quite often. But anyway, so numpad 1 will draw a card like that. Now if you're out of cards, when you go to draw a card, it will actually shuffle this over and draw it for you. So that's cool. Also, as a quick side note while we're here, if you have cards in your discard and there's not any in your draw pile, and you're not necessarily drawing a card, you can click her hand, and it'll shuffle them over like that, and then you can do whatever you need to do with the investigate or the whatever. Cool. So numpad 3 will play a card at random. So if you press numpad 3, it'll take a random card out of your hand and put it on your playmat area. And if you do it again, they should go in sequential order, like so. But once it gets to about around this, like 4 or 5, for some reason, they stop increasing the increments. I don't know why they do that, but they do. I may look into that later, but for now, I mean, it's good enough, right? They just play a random card. If it stacks, then just fix it. Right? Cool. So from there, we have discard hand on numpad 4. That does exactly what it says. Just discard your hand. Then numpad 5 is going to play all cards from your hand to the cursor position. So if I hit numpad 5 here, it'll put them all down here. It'll start at my cursor position and they'll go out to the right. Now a cool thing about this is it actually highlights all the cards that you put out there that way. That way if you need to maneuver them, like if you accidentally put them up here or something, you know, you're like, oops, I didn't mean to click the button up there. You can just grab them all and put them over here. Or you can, you know, just hit G and group them all up or whatever. Cool. Now, numpad 6 will unstack a deck. Where this, the reason I added this in, it can be used for whatever you want, is sometimes when you're dragging stuff out of your hand, it will clump up like this. It's just something that happens because of the speed at which you drag things out of your hand. You know, you get in the flow, you get in the zone, you're hyped, you're like, you got the highest APMs, you're almost like StarCraft player level. You're getting in there, right? And your cards get clumped. Now from this position, you can do a couple different things. If you haven't dropped the cards yet, like this, you can use a new feature that Tabletop has added in the last update, where you can just press the number keys, one of the number keys on your keyboard, not numpad, but a number key. So if I press 1, it'll put it out into 1 row like this. If I press 2, they'll go out into 2 rows, and 3 will put them in 3 rows, up until, I guess it won't do 4 rows. So, yeah. So 3. Cool. And that's cool and all. But let's say you did drop them and you wind up with a catastrophe like this. You can just hit group and it'll group them all up. And then you can hit numpad 6 and it'll spread them all out for you. Now you got to be careful if you're dealing with more than 24 cards. Weird stuff can happen. I just scripted it for up to 24. And after 12, it'll wrap down. So to show you what I'm talking about, I can take this new recruit stack here, and I'm going to unstack these guys, and it'll stack up to 12 this way, and then it'll put 3 down here in the lower row. So if I hit 6 here, it'll do like that. So from there, you got to be careful with more than 24. I haven't programmed the logic to handle more than that. So if you wind up doing more than 24, you'll wind up with something like this. This is 30. So if I unstack these, some of them shoot like way out here, you know. So just, you know, keep that in mind. 24 is the limit, and I even made a note in the notes about that. Cool. But as you can see, we'll just take 6 of these out, and okay, well, 23, I guess. Anyway, cool. But yeah, that's what it looks like when you do all 24. Looks kind of cool. I'll be dinking with that more and more, like for sure, to make that more fluid. Anyway, so that's all the shortcuts. That's what all those things do. Now we'll progress into playing the rest of our hands, and so that you know how that's going to work out. So we play out our cards here. We had this guy come out. We don't have enough to attack it, but if we did, we could click this fight button here, and it would go to our victory pile. Now, a cool thing about the fight button is a lot of the times it will actually separate the things that go into your discard for you. So there are a lot of things that just always go to your discard when you fight. For instance, the X-Men bystanders that we have here. So this cipher, and the way you can tell if it's going to go or not is it'll have DIS in its name in parentheses. So if you wanted to take the time and you know that she's going to be going to your discard, you could just come in here and type DIS like this. Oops. No, just capital D into her name. And when you click the fight button, they'll both go into your discard. Like so. But I'm working on editing these schemes to also do that for you. So if they add anything extra to the villain deck, they'll automatically mark them as discard. But currently that's not here. So, you know, you kind of keep an eye out for that a little bit. But it should, for the most part, do it for you. Also, you can, in order to use these fight buttons, you can stack them multiple ways. So if she's stacked with this bystander, you can still click the fight button and it'll separate them out for you. So that's cool stuff. Alright, so now we have like 5 recruit and 1 attack. So let's say we want to buy something. We want to buy these 2 daredevils. Now when you buy things in this mod, you can just click these buy buttons and it'll do it for you for the most part. If something has the wall crawl text on it or the soaring flight text, it will automatically handle that for you. So wall crawl keyword is when you buy something, it goes to the top of your draw pile instead of into your discard. And the buy button will actually do that for you. Also, soaring flight says it gets added to your next hand after you draw your cards at the end of turn. So that's basically teleport. So if you buy something with soaring flight, it'll go down here, which none of these have any of those keywords. I'm just letting you know. Now, it will not do stuff like Daredevil's backflips, right? So like Daredevil's backflip says if you the next hero you recruit this turn goes on the top of your deck. So whenever you do something like that that's a card effect, you would click the buy button and then just put it on top. So like if I had backflip this card, I just grab it and throw it on top of my draw pile. Cool. So another thing you want to be careful about when buying these is you don't want to click these buy buttons too quick. When the card that comes out to, you want to make sure that the card that comes out to replace the card that you bought is at resting before you click the buy button again, for a couple different reasons. But the most important thing is it'll break stuff like this. Okay, I didn't have the APM to get over there, but there you go. So that wound up breaking that, right? In this case, it's not too bad of a mess up. We could just put a card here and everything's fine again. But just be careful about clicking these too fast. Cool. So now let's say that you do have a mess up and you need to fix this HQ. Well, how am I supposed to fix this HQ if, you know, they keep replacing themselves? Like, what's going on here? The way you do that is I call it a card prop. So let's say I didn't want to buy these guys. I goofed up or whatever. So I would take a card and I would prop it here and just do it like so. And that'll prevent a card from coming out because it has like a hit collision. So cool. And you know, sometimes that's kind of finicky. It's something that I've thought about doing a different way, but you know, whatever. Once you get used to propping the cards, it becomes almost second nature, right? Like if I made it a different way now, I would still prop cards. That's how used to it I am. So cool. Just be careful, like I said, when you're buying multiples so that it doesn't mess it up. Alright, let's got that covered. Now, out of time. Out of time is really cool. It's a keyword that happens on some cards here and there. And it basically means that a copy of that card will get played at the start of your turn. Or no, you place that card out of time and play it at the beginning of your next turn before you would play your cards. So I believe that's after you play your villain deck card. No, it might even be before you play your villain deck card. I can't remember the exact wording on it. I'd have to look it up. But anyway, it'll take anything that's out of time and it'll play them up here so that you don't forget. And then what you would do is you can just like kind of separate them out so that you know that they're out of time, but you can't like interact with them, right? Because they immediately go to your discard. So you can't do stuff like KO them or reveal them once they've been played. I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'll look more into that later. There's in Revelations they made a rule statement that kind of messes with out of time. Anyway, that's not what we're here for. I don't know why that did that. I accidentally hit a button. Oh, that's the play a card at random. Cool. I forgot I keybound that to my mouse or a mouse button. Come back. Anyway. So let me get done peddling here. Cool, so let's continue on. So let's say I'm just gonna buy these two daredevils here, making sure that this is out and comes to kind of a rest before buying my second one. And I can now end my turn. Now when I end my turn, it's going to take anything on this playmat or put it in the discard pile. Well, okay, so the first thing it does is it takes anything in your hand and places it onto the playmat in a stack. And then it takes anything from the playmat and puts it in here. If there are any new recruits or sidekicks out here, it will put them back into their appropriate decks. So let's use an example here. Let's say I have a sidekick and a new recruit in my hand. And I have these cards. So let's say I want to play everything except this sidekick. I do not want the sidekick to go back to the sidekick stack. The easiest way to do that is anytime you want them to go back, just play them onto the mat and make sure they're not stacked with anything. And anything that you don't want to go back, just put it in your discard. But I'll go over kind of how this works so that you'll know, and just so you'll know, I guess. So when these things get played out of your hand, they will get stacked. So if we want this new recruit to go back but not the sidekick, and we don't want to put the sidekick in our discard because I don't know why you wouldn't, but anyway, we would, but we wanted to play the rest of our hand, right? So if we did this right here, and if we click this clean button, the sidekick's going to get thrown out here, and more likely than not, it's not going to stack with anything. So then the sidekick is going to go back, and this new recruit's going to go back. So to prevent this sidekick from going back, we could hold it in our hand with one other card, and now when we click this clean button, this new recruit will go back, the sidekick will stack with this agent, and it will not go back. Theoretically. I mean, oh my god, it did. That's crazy. Cool. Okay, yeah, just discard them. My bad. I guess that's weird. I guess the timing on that's a bit off, but anyway. And since we're in multi-hand mode, it threw me over to green players, so that now I can do green player's turn. He got a Master Strike. Cool. We do the Master Strike effect. Then we can play out green player's turn. Say he recruits a Nova or something. And then he's going to end his turn and clean up. And this guy's turn. Cool. So now I get to show off the push button. So if you draw a villain, there's a couple things you can do to move the city track forward. Because, you know, like this guy has to go into the sewers and anything moves down. So the first thing you can do is you can flip it out like this and lay it down and just click this button here, and it'll move the city for you. Then you can pick him back up and put him in the city. The next thing you can do is you can simply tap it with the card, like so, and it'll move the city down. You can put him into the sewers there. So the way I did that is there's actually a hit zone over that. So if you pick up the card and you have it hovered, also you want to make sure that your lift height is this high. There used to be a number on this, but you want to make sure it's this high. If it's any lower than this, it will proc this thing accidentally all the time. I made it as thin as I possibly could, but if your lift height's too low, then when you drag cards over this, it'll automatically move the city and everyone will hate you for it. So be careful with that. Cool. I guess that'll go away on its own. Yeah. Sweet. Anyway, so the way I tap this card is while holding left click, if I also hold right click, it'll put it down on the table, like so. Then if I let go of right click, it'll raise up off the table again to the preferred lift height. And that's just what I do. I just go boop boop like so, and it moves it. Cool. Now it will also move your bystanders with the villain. Now this can get kind of tricky sometimes, because let's say we have two bystanders face up. They're not stacked right now, but if we click this button here, they're all going to stack up like that. So you got to kind of be aware of that. If you have multiple bystanders on some kind of villain or something, you may want to put them face down so that they don't stack. And used to, you could like make all kind of crazy stacks like this right here. But now, for whatever reason, if you do something like this, it'll mess up. I don't know. I don't really know what they did to the physics in the latest update, but it's not good. Yeah. Okay, well, it didn't mess up too bad there. It's hit or miss, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. The stacking of the cards is just really weird now. So that's kind of what this city up here is for, a little bit. This is mainly for extra stuff that doesn't move, but if you find that you have like, you know, hidden witnesses, human shields, and normal bystanders all on one villain, you may, you know, want to put some of them up here. and as the city moves down, right? So let's say that this is like some human shields or something, and this is just a normal bystander he has captured. You can move him down, and just remember to move this with him. The reason this does not move is because it's for stuff that like modifies the city. So like let's say you're playing a scheme that says put the scheme twist above a city space or something, right? Or like the ferry disaster scheme is a pretty good one. So yeah, the ferry disaster here. It states that you put the bystander stack above the sewers as the ferry, and then each twist the ferry moves one space to the left, and that ferry is always modifying a city space. So we would start with it here, like so, and the setup will actually do this for you. And then, you know, when we draw a twist, we just move it over like that. And so that way we have like a visual representation of what's going on, and we can remember where it's at easier. And it's not clogging up stuff down here. And that's why that does not move. But you know, use it how you can, right? It's there. Use it to the best of your ability for your current situation. So the next thing, and I think this is actually the final thing about the gameplay, is I have these buttons here. I know they're not super visible, but they're here. One will rescue. This will rescue you a bystander. This will gain you a bindings, and this will gain you a wound. And these are per player mats, so if you got a buddy over here slacking, he's not getting his wound, you can just click the button for him and he'll gain his wound for him, right? So these go per player mat, not per player. Or player color, I guess is the better way to say that. And then the bindings, same thing, just gains you a binding instead of a wound. And then the rescue bystander will rescue you a bystander. Put it right here at your victory pile. So I usually keep these guys separate, but you can keep them there if you want. It's whatever. So yeah, those buttons are there. Use them. They're for your convenience. You don't have to use them if you're zoomed out like this and you're comfortable just gaining a wound like this or a bystander like this. More power to you. And sometimes, you know, it may be better, like, let's say if it says reveal the top card of the bystander stack, if it's a special bystander rescue, right? So you might have to do that anyway. It's up to you how you want to use those, but they're there. Let's see. I believe that's everything. That should be. Yeah. Cool. So I hope this wasn't too long and complicated, and I hope that a lot of you people can watch it, or a lot of people can watch these videos and understand how to play this mod, because once you do get used to playing it, it really is a smooth experience with Legendary. It cuts turn times down so much. Like when me and my buddies that I play with regularly play, if they're sitting down paying attention, we can just cruise through turns, even super complicated turns. Like, you know, occasionally maybe, you know, we might get hung up on a decision or something, but I'm talking like 3 to 4 seconds per turn, right? Like just crazy fast. So like, let's say I'm playing this here. Cool, we're on green. Villain comes out, we'll move the city space down. It's a wolf. I kind of already know what it is. On the sewers, rooftops, and bridge, he gets +2 attack. So this guy has a +2. He's only 3 attack. So I can actually play these cards out and fight this guy right here, and I can KO one of my heroes. So I'll KO this guy, and I had 3 recruits, so I can buy this Tigra here. Cool. And in my turn. Sweet. Now it's this guy's turn over here. So he'll reveal a villain deck card. Check for ambush. If you can't outwit, hilariously enough we can't, so we have to play the top card of the villain deck, which is one of these chicks. So now we can do this. Look at the top 2 cards of your deck, draw one, put the other back. Play that. Sure. I'll put that one back. Play this guy. Now do I need attack or recruit? So having 3 attack, nope, not good. So now I have a good old 4-2 hand here. And I can recruit this daredevil here. And end my turn. So as you can see, like, you know, the pacing is it gets pretty good, you know, like just stick with it, and I'll see you out there. If you ever want to play sometime, just hit me up on Steam in the comments, add me, whatever, and we'll play some games. Peace out.